So, good morning, everyone. Sorry for the late start. A few technical challenges with screen resolutions and the Mac for some reason. So, this is going to be a little bit ad hoc. Well, some of the demos that I really wanted to show you, I'm not going to be able to show you because of projection issues. But we'll be over in the developer lounge all day. So, come and see us there, and we can fill in the gaps. So, my name's Martin Jarvis. I'm from the Oracle product management team for mobile, bots, and AI. And what I wanted to talk to you about this morning was some of our experiences in developing chatbot applications. We launched our chatbot platform around about the beginning of the year. We've done lots of customer projects now. And this whole new world of building chatbots, it's a new kind of skill for us all. So what we want to do is share with you some of our best practices and some of our experiences. Now, first time I press the button, anything? Right, brilliant. I will probably talk about some things which are coming, and Oracle insists that I put this safe harbor statement up such that you don't make buying decisions based on future functionality, but only on what we've got today. And I'll try and point out what's roadmap as we're going along. But anyway, why are we talking about chatbots at the moment? Chatbots is one of those really exciting areas. You probably saw it in the keynote this morning. I keep looking at my screen here and realizing it's not what's on your screen. So the whole point about chatbots is that we are kind of moving into a new era of engagement channels. For the last 10 years, it's all been about mobile apps on the App Store. And Apple did a fantastic thing with the iPhone, really promoting the idea that there's an app for everything. But with what we're seeing now is that people are kind of a little bit tired of each time having to go to the App Store to get a new app, all the updates that we get on almost a daily basis. And so that's why we're kind of looking at things. And if you look at what most people are using on their phones right now, it is the conversational apps. So it's the Facebook Messenger, it's WhatsApp, Snapchat, if you're kind of under the age of 30. These are the apps that people use the most. And if you actually look on the app stores now, the average number of apps that are being installed per month is rapidly approaching 0. I can't remember the last time I installed a new app. I just use the apps that are on my phone. So actually, if you're trying to roll out a new service, getting your users to install an app straight away is hard. It's kind of expensive, of this cost of acquisition of users. But if you have a service in Facebook Messenger or in WhatsApp or one of the chat clients, they can get to your service really quickly. They don't have to install anything else. They've already got the app running on their phone. And they can access that service anywhere. So that's why chatbots are becoming increasingly popular. But to make a really good, exciting, and easy-to-use chatbot, it needs to be able to talk in a conversational style, using artificial intelligence so that it understands what you're saying rather than you having to learn the keywords that the bot understands. And that's kind of the difference now, I suppose, of what we can do now is apply AI in the cloud, so you don't have to be an AI expert. You don't have to have supercomputers to process all that big data that's being used to generate the AI models. We've done all that for you. So that's what we're doing here with chatbots. And what can they do? What can they do for a business, for an organization? Well, imagine if you've got thousands of customers coming to your service. They're all wanting to ask a question. The chatbot can answer them all instantly with a 30-second response time, probably at worst. Whereas if they're calling up a call center, they may be waiting for 10 minutes, 15 minutes before they finally get through to someone. And it may well be that 90% of the queries that people are coming into you with, or the questions they're asking, the bot can answer. But then that last 10%, which are the difficult things that you haven't yet taught the bot, you can hand over to a human being. So you actually don't use the bot to replace people, but you get people doing more valuable jobs. They're answering more high-value calls. So there we go as a human being, sorry. Now, the product that I'm talking about, I'm obviously from Oracle. This is our platform for building bots. It's actually part of our Oracle mobile cloud. And currently, the service you'll see available on the cloud is called Oracle Mobile Cloud Service Enterprise, or OMCE, and very shortly, the end of this month, we'll be launching a new SKU, which is the Oracle Autonomous Mobile Cloud Enterprise, which has all this chatbot functionality in it. And what we did is we took a platform that would already deliver services for mobile apps, and we extended it with chatbots. So we've added on all the AI functionality. So now that same platform can drive your web applications, your mobile applications, or your chatbots. Your chatbots could run in Facebook Messenger, on the web, or even over Alexa or Google Home if you like, if you want to use voice. And you can connect any of those front ends to any of your back ends, whether they're on-premise, or whether they're in the cloud, whether there's something that you've developed in-house, or whether it's a packaged application. We have connectors and APIs. So it's an API-first platform for developing these types of applications. Right. Can you switch over to my phone, please? We'll see if this works. I'm going to take a massive risk here in a moment, and you'll see why. I'm going to be using my personal Facebook Messenger account, and so if anybody could be contacting me. Not working? It worked just when we tested it. You want me to disconnect and reconnect? They're nodding at the back. There we go, finally. Excellent. So you can see I've got a message there from my wife. I will admit that is my wife with love hearts and things all over it. It came in and it went. Are we good? Every time we get something up, your projector goes. I'm going to leave the guys at the back to figure that out. Let's move back to the slides. Again, I'm really sorry about this, but please drop round by the developer lounge and we'll show you all this working. I was going to show you a bot working. Right, so inside our bots platform, and I need to kind of explain some of the internals so that when we get onto the best practice, you'll understand kind of what I'm talking about. To make all the chatbot application work, there are 4 main areas. There's the AI that I talked about first of all. That's all in the conversational AI down on the bottom right-hand side. That's where we teach the bot about intents, about entities, and we use a set of phrases that you would call a set of utterances. That's the terminology they use for natural language processing in the AI world, intents, entities, and utterances. And again, we could show you all this running. I had a demo to show you all this working. So that's all the AI piece. As I said, you don't need to be an AI expert. As long as you can understand those 3 concepts, you can build a bot. And if you come along to our hands-on lab, and I'll show you the room and the times later, we're going to be running a hands-on lab later this afternoon where you can build a bot, hands-on, and try these things out. So even if I don't get to demo them, you get to try them out later today. So that's the AI piece. The next piece is the dialogue flow and the execution. That's really the heart of the conversation. Okay, so the AI is where you detect what it is the user is intending to do. That's why it's called an intent. But it's the dialogue flow that turns that into a conversation, and you have the context of the conversation. Okay? Then we have the channels. So you build a bot once, and you can deploy it to any of those channels. And depending on where your users are, don't make your users come to you. You take your bot to whichever channel you think your users are most likely to use. And then lastly is the whole area of what we call custom components to connect that bot to your enterprise data with a set of APIs. So those are the 4 building blocks of our bots platform. So if you're going to build a bot application from this is the kind of the developer's view. This is what it looks like. You've got your channels. The data from the channel comes into the AI, and the AI is the piece doing the natural language processing. Then we go through the conversational UI. That's all done in a markup language we call OBotML. So there's no coding as such there, but it is a sort of a declarative way of defining a conversation. And we use a technology in there called FreeMarker. Now, one of my colleagues, Barry, is going to be doing a session, he's at the back there, in about an hour's time. and he'll be looking a lot more at the free marker, so you can have a deep dive on free marker being used in the bot ML. Then we have our custom components, which are really written in JavaScript, and we have an SDK for that. And then they can connect to any of the connectors or the integration points we have in the mobile cloud. So when you're building a bot application, that's kind of what it looks like, and those are the skills you need. And during the hands-on lab later on, we'll be kind of dealing with the AI and the conversational UI, the flow piece in the hands-on lab. All right, so again, I'm going to have to skip my demo, because otherwise we'll waste time. So this is the meat of what we wanted to do. I wanted to give you that little introduction so that some of this made sense. So it's actually really easy to build a bot. We've had customers go live from start of project to end of project in about 4 weeks. That's from conceptual idea of what's this bot going to do to actually having something live running in Facebook Messenger. What's the hard bit is how to get that right, how to make it compelling, how to make it engaging. And there are these 5 things I'm going to go through, which are kind of our top 5 tips, if you like. So it starts off with by having a successful chatbot strategy, believe it or not. It's no point just kind of saying, oh, we're going to have a bot and not really knowing what it's going to do. So we start that off usually by looking at a set of industry use cases. So what are the top things that certain industries could use a chatbot for? The number 1 use case that comes up is around call centers. So if you're already handling calls through web chat or through people phoning in or going onto your website looking at FAQs, that's a great place for a chatbot to actually add value. And in these industries, like in insurance, can be customer service. In retail, that could be returns and FAQs. Utilities, it could be, what's my current balance on my bill? How can I pay my bill? In airlines, is my flight delayed? All these sort of questions you could ask the bot. So it's really easy to think of lots of use cases where it's your customers, but probably half the projects that we've implemented with customers have been for their employees. So from a HR point of view, how many days holidays have I got left? When are my expenses going to get paid? Am I allowed to claim for this journey I took by car to this destination? So all the sort of HR policies. So these are the main areas we look at when we're thinking about use cases. And the point is, don't try and boil the ocean. Start with 1 or 2 of these use cases. Start simple and make sure it works, and iterate and evolve your bot, okay? If you've got a web chat or an online chat presence already, that's a good place to start. If you haven't, here's a tip which I can give you. If you don't know how people use your service, why not get an intern or something to publish a WhatsApp phone number and pretend to be a bot for 2 weeks. Let all your users think they're a bot. They're your new bot. Gather as much intelligence as you can in those 2 weeks with your intern answering as many questions as possible and making a record of all the questions. Then that way you'll have a really good idea of what your bot should do. And obviously you can scale that up dramatically as to what one intern could do. But once you've figured out what those use cases are, implement a subset of them. Like I say, don't try and build the ocean. Do 2 or 3 things really well. Make sure it's rock solid. Tune it and optimize it. And within our platform, we give you analytics tools so you can see how the bot's being used, what intents are being used, where the users are coming from, what channel is the most popular, and iterate. Keep going around that, and when you're happy you've got a great bot, add some extra use cases and just keep going. Some more design principles, overarching design principles. Be honest with your users and make sure that they know your bot is a bot. Don't try and make them think it's a human being. I don't mind making them think that my intern is a bot, but I don't want to do it the other way. People are a lot more forgiving if they know they're talking to a bot. If they think they're talking to a human being, they'll get very frustrated very quickly and a little bit freaked out. There's this thing called the uncanny valley, where you're not quite sure, am I talking to a human being or is this a machine? But as long as they know it's a bot, and the easy way to do that is when you first go into the bot, say, hello, I'm your HR bot, I'm your customer service bot. And give your bot a name, give it a character, have a persona. And when we used to build mobile apps, we used to think a lot about the colors, the fonts, how we would lay out the page. But actually, when you're designing a bot, it's that tone of voice, whether it's witty, whether it's serious, how it responds. That's what you're thinking about. That's your design when you're talking about a bot. And as I said, I think earlier on, make sure your bot works on all sorts of different channels. Take your bot to where your customers are. Don't expect your customers to come to the bot. So the first one of those is about how we gather good quality user requirements. Now, we've been through a few iterations of this until we've come up with a standardized process that we use, and it's a user-driven design workshop that we run. And I'd encourage you to do the same. We can run this in probably, my ideal is 10 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We get 6 to 10 business people in the room, the actual people who are probably in the call center answering calls. And we go through what's the business goals, what's the actual business challenge we're going to solve. The personas, who are the people that this bot's going to be targeted at. We look at the user journey, the channels, the dialogue design, the backends, and the sample entities. And we go through all that, and at the end of it, we'll have a chatbot design. And the reason I flick through that very quickly is because I'm going to drill down on these. I've just got some examples of where we've run this workshop before. When we do the business goals, we get people to think about in terms of not just a kind of hard and fast, how much money is this going to save, how much time. That all goes in the mind box. But how do I want my bot to make my customers feel? That's the kind of softer stuff that goes in the heart box. And when we do this, we run this, like I said, with a set of end users, and we get them to put sticky notes, post-it notes, and they get to fill in the blocks, and we kind of gather all the information as we go. This is around personas. We encourage them to think about a kind of type of user who will be using my bot. This was a HR bot that we worked on with one of our customers, and they picked out 3 typical users. And we get them to give them a name. What age are they? Did they go to university or not? What's this one? Are they part-time working? Are they an international worker, or are they in country? I remember which customer this is, so I was just trying to avoid trying to say that then. But you can see how we design a persona exactly around the character, and then when we come to do the conversational design, we know which persona it is we were designing for. This is an example of the user journeys. So if we're thinking about our use case, and I think this is the HR one. So if you were thinking about, how many days holiday have I got left, would be the kind of question someone's trying to answer. How do they do that now? What's the steps that they need to go through? And then every time there's a touch point with the HR organization, that's when we circle it. Because there's obviously a lot more steps to a process that someone has to go through, other than just what the bot's doing. And then we also look at how can we optimize this? This might be the process today, but how can we improve it? How can we use the bot to make it better? So these are just some examples that we had the folks doing in this particular workshop. When we come to do the channels, we take our personas that we already listed out, and we think about, for Ahmed, for example, he's a young guy, he's got his nice iPhone 10. What's the apps that he's most likely to use? And he's a Snapchat, iMessaging maybe. Some of them have got Samsung Galaxy Notes, so maybe on there. But for the proof of concept, what we're going to choose? We're going to choose a web channel. So that's how we go and do our channel mapping per persona. And then the last piece, which is kind of the most interesting piece, is the actual conversation. Now you understand who your personas are, who your users are. You've got an idea of what devices they're using. We get the people in the room to role play. We choose one person to be the bot, one person to be the end user, and we give them some sticky notes. The red one is the end user. The green one is the bot. And then the other 2 sides are like annotations. So it gives us a way of saying, which systems does the bot need to talk to get that information? And what type of the dialogue can we have over there is what the bot says. So we get them to role play it. And this is what it looks like. We give them a set of post-it notes and some pens, and we stick them up. and they can change the conversation around. And what it gives you is a really nice happy path flow of the conversation that we can then implement. It's not much use when you hand that over to a developer, of course. So what we tend to do is take those Post-it notes and turn that into a PowerPoint slide. Or more frequently, we're using a tool now called Bot Society. Bot Society lets you do what we're doing here in PowerPoint very quickly with an online tool, and then it generates like a video at the end. That's a great design tool. So what you end up with, exactly as I just said, is over on the left-hand side, what the bot says, and over on the right-hand side, what the user's saying. And in the middle is kind of all those annotations around what systems are being involved. Okay, so that's our design workshop. We've now got a really good set of requirements, and you'd be surprised how many customers struggle to get started without doing that, unless they've got the real use case in mind, really understand who the personas are. It's kind of really difficult to get started. And then just in one day, you can run that sort of workshop, and everybody knows how to get started then. So the next things that we need to look at is we'll create that conversation, but we need to train the bot to actually, the AI to work much better with the intent resolution. So I said at the beginning in that process, if you've got a web chat already, an online chat, the good way to start is gather up real phrases that people have asked. I don't know if you can read those. They may be a bit small. But these are not just what the developer invented. These are actual phrases that customers have come to our service and asked for. So we'll use those as our example. Now, don't take 100% of every phrase that you've ever been given as your training data. Because whenever you do an AI project, you need to split your data. 80% is what you use for training, 20% you use for testing. Okay? So you train the model with your 80% of your data, and then you use the other 20% to test whether or not the AI model is doing what you think it should do. That's always a good way to do this. Also, you might think about your utterances and your phrases that you're using. Some of them will overlap. It's just the way it happens. Some of them won't, so we think about it as in terms of Olympic rings. So if each one of these is our intents, we have a spending intent, a balance intent, a transfer intent. This was the demo I was going to show you. Some of the phrases can overlap a little bit, so the AI won't necessarily give you 100% that it's a balance inquiry. It might give you 70% that it's a balance inquiry, but maybe 40% there's a chance the user is after a transfer. Okay? So when you look at the utterances, think about the overlaps and try to remove them as much as possible, and you do that with the utterances. So for example, if you've got a lot of utterances that are the same, then merge it. It's one intent, right? The good example here is an insurance policy example. Two examples there. I want to add a person to my insurance policy. I want to add liability protection to my insurance policy. Now, originally, this was designed as two intents. But when you look at the sentences, they're actually the same intent, but with different entities. So in both cases, the intent is, I want to add something to my insurance policy. But the variable here is the person or a liability protection. And the AI and the bot can actually pick those out. So it's a single intent. That's what we mean by merging your intents and using entities to differentiate what the parameters are. So that's all around the AI. The next piece is around how to create a great conversational flow. And I did have a video here, but this is going to be a challenge to show you all of this. What we suggest you do, and this is again a real example of one we did for Bajaj Electricals. If you go onto Bajaj Electricals' website, you'll see a little pop-up window in the bottom right-hand corner called Bajaj Paddy. That's their bot running our platform. And this was the chart that we created, what we call a conversational tree, which shows the design of the conversation. The risk is when you ever design a conversation like this, you only ever design and test what we call the happy path. But end users don't always follow the happy path. They're having a conversation with the bot. So they don't go linear, they kind of jump around a little bit. So you need to kind of draw up a chart here, not just to figure out what the happy path is, but some of the alternate paths that users might take, and then you can build those into your conversational flow. Another good practice that we suggest, and I think I kind of referenced this right at the very beginning, is to make sure that the bot can hand over to a live agent if necessary. If you can detect that your user is getting a little frustrated, and we'll have some functionality coming in a later release to do sentiment analysis, so you can detect whether the user is getting a little frustrated, maybe they're typing in all caps, putting some emojis in that are showing they're a bit unhappy, or if the bot just genuinely can't figure out what on earth the customer is asking for. The bot could then say, can I hand you over to a live agent? And we have integration, so I wanted to show you the video, but again, if you come out to the developer lounge, you want to see it, I can show you, where the end user is talking perhaps in Facebook Messenger. When the bot says, do you want to hand over to a live agent, it actually invokes a session in our Oracle Service Cloud. So you've got somebody in a call center who's using the Service Cloud, it pops up on their screen, and they can handle the conversation, and then they can hand back to the bot when that's finished, when the inquiry's finished. So the end user gets the result they wanted, and you've got a very happy customer. So we always suggest that if you've already got a human channel there already, don't get rid of it, but use that to handle those 10% of calls that the bot can't handle. And obviously, you'll have the analytics as well that you better look back and think, OK, what can we do to train our bot better so more and more of these things are handled by the bot? I really wish I could show you the video of that. So the last area I want to cover off is about getting the right mix of conversational and graphical UI components within your bot. Now, the bots, if they're running on different channels, things like Facebook Messenger, perhaps, yeah, I can show you one. In fact, I'll leave that right to the end. I know we couldn't even get this working, could we? Right. So depending on the channel you're running on, they can be very rich user interface with buttons, carousels, with cards. So if you look at the example over on the right-hand side, that's not very engaging. If you're an end user, you've probably read the first 3 or 4 lines, and then you think, can't bother to read the rest. So don't make your bots too chatty. Yeah, break it into separate bubbles. Use graphics and cards and GUI elements where it makes sense. And we've got some real hard and fast experience here, like 90 characters per message, less than 63 characters is kind of what we found works the best, where people are actually reading. And then test it on different devices, because if you're delivering a bot in a web channel, it will be wider. So what looks like nearly 15 to 20 lines there will be slightly better on a web page. So test it on different channels to see how it looks. One of the other things that will happen is that if you have a too long a message, when the user comes to type their own message, it will have scrolled off the screen. So that's the other reason for keeping it quite short. So there's not too much vertical scrolling. The other temptation is it's very easy with Facebook Messenger and some of the other channels to use the waiting icon. You can just say, I want the 3 dots that animate, that show that the person at the other end is typing. Which is great if you know that the bot's going to respond within maybe 15 to 20 seconds, it's saying there. That's great. But if the bot's going to take a minute to go off and find something, I mean, it may be quite a complex transaction you're asking the bot to perform for you. If you've just got those dots, what happens in Facebook Messenger is that they show them for a while, and then they get turned off automatically by the channel. And so the end user is kind of a little bit confused. They had dots, and now the dots have gone away. Has the bot stopped working, or is it just busy? So if it's going to be busy, tell them, send a message saying, I'm going to look into that for you, I'll be back to you in a minute or 2. Because the great thing about a bot is that we're used to talking to people, where it's kind of an asynchronous conversation. You send a message, you can see whether it's been read, and maybe you'll get a reply in a minute or 2. Whereas on a mobile app, you want a response that's kind of in milliseconds, microseconds coming back to the screen. You want the screen to refresh. But we've got time with the bot to go off and perform the transaction and then deliver the result back to the end user. So the little dots are fantastic, but don't overuse them, because they can confuse your users. Another thing is this, what we call the illusion of limited choices. Again, using the UI controls, I think it's Facebook Messenger only lets you have 3 options in that menu when you use one of these quick menus. So the question there is, what do you want to change your flight date to? And it's given 3 options there. But what happens if what you want is not one of those 3? The bot can handle any date you like, but it's only because you've given the user the impression that's the only 3 choices. And they could actually type in another date, but it's just the illusion. You're given the false illusion of limited choices. So instead, we would suggest doing it like this. Have the 2 most popular, and then an option that says another date. And then the bot could then say, just type in whatever the date you want, and perhaps give them a nudge on what format to do it in. Yeah, this is just saying, because you've always got the text input field on the bottom of the Facebook Messenger, so when you give it a menu choices like this, it makes them think that they can only choose the menus, but they can actually type anything in freeform as well. The graphical UI versus message trees. If you need to enter multiple pieces of data, sometimes doing it as a long flow, like it's shown over on the right-hand side, is not the best way to do things. There are a reason that forms still exist in this world. We're used to filling out a form when it's a lot of structured information you need to capture. A bot over on the right-hand side trying to capture details on a form is not a great way to do this. So what you can do within the channel and within our platform is you can pop up something we call an instant app, which you can see over here on the left-hand side. It takes up some of the screen. You can put fields on there with validation, text fields, date fields. We can even do signature capture. That could talk to other backend systems through a REST API call, all sorts of validation you could do. And then once you've captured that information, post it back to the bot as one completed sort of transaction. So don't overuse the conversational UI if you don't have to. Pop up and use the channels, web views, wherever you can. Yeah, so that's the example. So the example they're showing here is that if you wanted to change the date when you've got all the way to the bottom, how do you get back to changing that date? Where if it's on a form on a page, you can actually fill that out. And again, I have a demo I could have shown you of this working. Right. So I haven't got the demo, so we've managed to finish a little bit quicker, but those are our kind of top tips in design. No code in this session. This is all about designing your bot. What I would say is, as I said before, Barry is presenting at 1:55 in the big room, 4700, and he'll look a lot more in detail at the conversational flow and Apache FreeMarker. That's the technology we use there. And then come along at 4 o'clock, between 4 and 6, we've got a hands-on lab in 4602, 4603, 4604. We've joined all those rooms together. That's over on the other side. We've got space for about 50 people. And you can get hands-on and try and build your own bot. It would be really good, really quick. Also, I've been asked to remind you all that if you want to go and do this when you're back at base, you can get a $500 credit towards your cloud subscription if you follow this line here. Normally, you just get $300, but a special for Oracle Code attendees is you get $500, as long as you follow that link. I'm told that everybody's email addresses here have already been pre-registered. So when you sign up, make sure you use the same email address that you registered for this event so it recognizes you. This one? Okay. That's just my summary of everything we've just shown you. I really apologize that I can't show you the demos. Done? Okay, right. So where was I? Those are the sessions. These are some of our websites up here. In fact, the one I haven't got on here. If you want to get a really good view on how some of this technology works, and you've got access to YouTube, as most people have, if you look up the Oracle mobile platform on YouTube, there's a lot of introductory videos to show you how to get started as well. Great. Thank you very much. I'll take some questions.
I'm just curious to know, like, the customer satisfaction when you set up ChatBot, replaced or complemented the call center.
Yeah. How the bot complements the call center.
Yeah, and like how many queries are the customers, the statistics to show how happy the customers are or their queries have been answered. I'm just really curious to see what the real metrics are for that, or your experience, really.
I haven't got any customer case study slides in, but the one that comes to mind is Adelaide University was one that we did right at the beginning of the year. We haven't got a view on customer satisfaction, but I think the call center rates are probably the evidence. So what they do is they have your, is it CTARs? ATARs, sorry. ATAR scores, where the students have to dial in normally to the university to find out what their scores were. And there's this real peak over those few weeks where all the students are trying to get their scores. They rolled out a bot where you could ask the bot what your ATAR score was, and it reduced their call center volume by 47% during that time. Now, if they hadn't been happy with the bot, I think they wouldn't have seen that reduction. So that's an example. Any more questions? In the front.
Abstract like good rating, but the perception of human.
So your question is, can the bot make a decision based on perception of the human? So how the tone of voice, maybe?
The question that have abstracts.
Yeah, we've got some technology coming in that space to analyze the dialogue. So one of them is sentiment.
Yeah.
But the other one is tone, because the thing is sarcasm. If someone says, oh, that's great, we know when we're talking that they're being sarcastic. But if someone types that, so you need to really understand the tone. So we'll have sentiment analysis and tone analysis. So you can make that type of decision, whether they're happy or sad, whether this conversation's going right. Does that answer your question? Okay. There was another hand at the back.
Okay, hi. I'm interested with the handover from the machine to the human. So I've never used a chatbot, but I'm expecting that once the chatbot passes me to the human, it will ask again for details I've given to the chat. So I mean, how would that work? Or I mean, how will the human take time to review the chat made?
Yeah. So imagine if you were talking away to a bot. You know it's a bot. Okay, the bot is struggling to answer me. And then it says, do you want me to hand me over? Imagine how upset you'd feel if you then had to reintroduce yourself to the person you're talking to. That's never going to work. So the way in which we've worked to this is when you hand over to the live agent sees the whole conversation. They can review everything that you've already discussed between the user and the bot. They'll know, who the person's logged in as, because we get that through the channel, and they can see the whole history. So they can review all that. I mean, there should be some techniques of how you might condense some of that or give a summary, pick out perhaps the key points, but all that information is available to the agent so that they can then decide. They can help the end user fulfill their inquiry, and what I would show you in the demo is that they can actually use the bot functions are available to the agent. There's some special commands that they can type in, so they can use the transactions that are already built into the bot to respond. Then it goes back to the bot to take over. And it's only then again if the user says, okay, I'm really not happy again, I need to speak to a live agent, that we could transfer it across to an agent again. So you're only using the live agent for a short amount of time. But you're absolutely right. People would be very upset if they had to reintroduce themselves on every time that happened. So that's why we pass over the whole details of the conversation. Okay. Anything else? No, I apologize again for all the technical problems we've had here. I had a whole suite of demos to show you. If you do want to come over to the developer lounge, I'll be there, Barry will be there as well, and we can show you any of these things working. I know the guys over there have got a big screen running with the mobile cloud running, and you can see some of these things. And please, if you really are interested, come along to the hands-on lab this afternoon. We'd love to spend some time with you and introduce you to the technology properly. Thank you very much.